The Vraxian delegation settles into their temporary quarters with meticulous attention to detail. Their living spaces have been modified according to specifications sent months in advance: higher oxygen content, increased humidity, and subtle vibration dampeners in the floors to accommodate their sensitive limbs. Thal approves of the humans' thoroughness, though he keeps this observation to himself. Their adaptability is remarkable, he mentions to Sub-Commander Zixara as they inspect the environmental controls. These modifications would have taken our engineers a full cycle to implement. They completed them in what they call weeks. Zixara clicks her mandibles in what humans would later learn is skepticism. Adaptability born of necessity, perhaps. Their historical records indicate frequent territorial conflicts among their own kind. Always rebuilding, always adjusting to new circumstances. Outside the embassy windows, Geneva's lights create a tapestry against the early evening sky. The Vraxians observe the human city with compound eyes that miss nothing: the patterns of traffic flow, the architectural variety, the seemingly chaotic but ultimately purposeful movement of pedestrians. Dr. Martinez watches the aliens through carefully concealed observation systems, taking notes on a tablet as Admiral Chen reviews security protocols with his team. They haven't slept since arrival, Elena notes, tapping data points into her analysis software. 36 hours and counting. Their metabolic readings remain consistent. Ken frowns at this information. Extended periods without vulnerable unconsciousness. Another tactical advantage we didn't anticipate. Elena gives him a sideways glance. Or perhaps they simply process rest differently. Not everything is a military calculation, James. In first contact scenarios, everything is a potential variable, he counters, though his expression softens. Your scientific curiosity is valuable, Elena, but don't forget what's at stake. The Vraxian Consortium controls 17 star systems. We have one. Their conversation is interrupted when a junior diplomat rushes in, slightly out of breath. The Vraxians have sent their final approval for tomorrow's welcome dinner. They've accepted our menu proposal without changes. Chen raises an eyebrow. Without a single modification. That's unexpected. Elena reviews the proposed menu on her tablet. Seasonal appetizers followed by a seafood showcase highlighting Earth's oceanic biodiversity. They didn't even question the specific dishes. No, Ambassador Cathal simply transmitted approval with what the translators interpreted as anticipation of cultural exchange through culinary traditions. Neither human notices the slight hesitation in the junior diplomat's recounting, the subtle indication that the translation might not capture nuances in the Vraxian response. Back in the Vraxian embassy, Cathal concludes a secure transmission with the Consortium High Command. The holographic projection of Fleet Admiral Vexcor hovers before him, the elder Vraxian's exoskeleton bearing ceremonial etchings that denote centuries of service. Remember your primary directive, Vexcor reminds him, multifaceted eyes gleaming in the low light. Assessment first, diplomacy second. If these humans pose no threat to expansion efforts, proceed with standard protocols. If they demonstrate unexpected capabilities. Thal completes the thought. Then we adjust our approach accordingly. The Consortium has encountered 43 sentient species, Cathal. None have surprised us in 300 cycles. I expect this mission to conclude with similar predictability. As the transmission ends, Cathal turns to the window, observing the strange, soft-bodied creatures moving through their illuminated habitats. Something about their unpredictable movements and inexplicable social patterns triggers an ancestral warning response in his nervous system, a sensation the highly evolved Vraxian rarely experiences. Anticipation, certainly, but also something else. Something Avraxian seldom admits to feeling. Uncertainty. The silence stretches to its breaking point as the humans exchange worried glances. Admiral Chen's diplomatic training takes over, his voice carefully modulated to project calm he doesn't feel. Ambassador Cathal, I assure you this is merely a local seafood delicacy. If we've committed some cultural offense. Offense? Cathal's translator crackles with an unfamiliar harmonic. You misunderstand. This is not offense. This is impossible. Dr. Martinez leans forward, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding caution. What do you mean by the devourer? Is this creature significant to your people? Zixara's projection flickers as she adjusts it to display comparative anatomy. Earth's king crab alongside the Carvex. The similarities are undeniable, though the Vraxian creature dwarfs its Earth counterpart with measurement indicators suggesting a leg span exceeding 4 meters. The Carvex hunts in the darkness of our deepest oceans. Zixara explains, her usual scientific detachment fractured by emotion. They can detect a Vraxian's bioelectric field from 2 kilometers away. Their outer shell resists our strongest conventional weapons. A mature specimen can consume an adult Vraxian in under 3 minutes. Elena studies the projection, professional excitement momentarily overriding awareness of the diplomatic catastrophe unfolding. Convergent evolution on a massive scale. Similar environmental pressures creating analogous morphology across different planets. Thal's limbs move in a pattern that his cultural attaches had not included in the briefing materials provided to the humans, a gesture reserved for discussing matters of existential significance. Our civilization's earliest settlements were coastal, he explains, each word deliberate. The historical archives record whole communities vanishing in single nights. The Carvex would emerge from the depths, hundreds at once, consuming all in their path. Our species retreated inland, developed technologies specifically to detect and avoid these predators. He pauses, compound eyes fixed on the steaming platter. Yet you serve their twins as food, garnished with plant extract and accompanied by fermented beverages. Admiral Chen signals discreetly to the waitstaff, who begin removing the offending dishes. Ambassador, please accept our deepest apologies. We had no way of knowing. How? Cathal interrupts, a breach of the careful diplomatic protocol he has followed until now. How do you hunt them? What technologies have you developed that render them harmless? Our military has spent centuries creating weapon systems specifically calibrated to their biological weaknesses, yet your species, with no natural defenses, captures them in such quantities that you serve them at diplomatic functions. The humans exchange glances, realization dawning that what they considered a simple menu choice represents something profoundly different to their guests. Dr. Martinez notices Zixara's attention has shifted from the hologram to Admiral Chen's dinner setting, where his unused seafood cracker sits beside the plate. You use tools, Zixara whispers, the translator barely capturing her words. Simple mechanical devices. No energy weapons, no sonic disruptors. Just metal implements and heat. Thal's antennae flatten against his carapace, a physiological response to extreme stress. What manner of species evolves in the presence of such predators without developing armor or speed? What evolutionary path leads to soft-bodied omnivores who consume apex predators using primitive tools? The diplomatic dinner, so carefully planned over months of preparation, dissolves into chaos as human officials attempt damage control, while Vraxian security personnel form a protective formation around their delegation. Beneath the immediate crisis, a more profound realization begins to take shape in both species. The gulf between their evolutionary experiences is vastly wider than anyone had imagined. In the momentary calm before diplomatic protocols reassert themselves, Elena catches Zixara's compound gaze. The alien scientist's mandibles move in what might be the Vraxian equivalent of disbelieving laughter. "Your people," Zixara says softly, "crack open armoured nightmares and dip their flesh in butter." Cathal paces the perimeter of his private chamber, 8 limbs moving in a precise pattern that helps organize his thoughts. The walls, specially coated with dampening materials to prevent surveillance, allow him rare freedom to process without observation. Zixara's findings are disturbing. He dictates to his personal archive. The humans don't merely consume these creatures as a demonstration of dominance. They incorporate the practice into cultural rituals, familial gatherings, celebrations, religious ceremonies dating back millennia. He pauses before a viewport overlooking Lake Geneva, mandibles working silently, as he considers implications that the consortium's preliminary assessment protocols never anticipated. Most concerning is their apparent confusion at our reaction. They genuinely do not regard these creatures as exceptional threats. What does this reveal about their baseline for danger assessment? What other lethal organisms do they classify as merely interesting? Throughout the embassy, similar conversations unfold among the delegation. Junior cultural attaché Tikfos reviews Vraxian mythology with renewed interest, particularly ancient texts describing first contact between their ancestors and the Karvex. Religious counselor Mezdak leads a small group in protective meditation rituals traditionally performed before ocean voyages. Meanwhile, in the secured human command center beneath the Interspecies Diplomatic Center, Admiral Chen reviews enhanced security footage from the disastrous dinner. "Look at their physiological responses," he tells the assembled team, highlighting subtle changes in the Vraxians' exoskeletons, temporary color shifts, minute vibrations, altered breathing patterns. These aren't diplomatic postures. This is genuine fear-response behavior. Dr. Martinez notes, comparing the footage to baseline recordings taken during earlier interactions. Their stress indicators exceeded even our most pessimistic modelling. "We're fortunate, Ambassador," Cathal maintained enough composure to prevent an immediate security incident. The question remains. General Watkins interjects, his weathered face grim in the blue light of the displays, whether we've revealed too much too soon. If these creatures interpret our normal dietary practices as evidence of extreme predatory capability, what happens when they learn about our military capacities? Elena bristles at the characterization. "They're not creatures, General. They're a sophisticated spacefaring civilization with art, philosophy, and scientific achievements that predate our earliest writing systems. A sophisticated civilization that's currently debating whether we're too dangerous to permit continued expansion," Chen reminds her, though his tone lacks Watkins' confrontational edge. Our analysts intercepted partial transmissions between their embassy and the homeworld. The military faction is arguing for immediate containment protocols. Secretary General Okafor, who has remained silent until now, rises from her seat. Her presence immediately commands attention, decades of diplomatic experience evident in her measured movements. "We have 2 paths before us," she states, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "We can respond defensively, confirming their worst fears about our nature. Or we can transform this misunderstanding into an opportunity for genuine exchange." She gestures toward the holographic display showing the Vraxian embassy. "They fear what they don't understand. So do we. The solution isn't to retreat into separate corners, but to build a bridge across that divide. Turning to Dr. Martinez, she continues, Elena, develop a comprehensive cultural exchange program focused on our different evolutionary paths. I want something that acknowledges their fear while demonstrating our respect for their experience. To Admiral Chen, James, maintain heightened security, but ensure it remains invisible. No overt military posturing. Her gaze sweeps the room. What we've stumbled upon isn't just a diplomatic incident. It's the first real test of whether different evolutionary paths can find common ground. I refuse to believe the only possible outcome is conflict. As the meeting adjourns, Elena's tablet chimes with an unexpected notification. A direct message from Zixara, bypassing official channels. Our ancestors feared the deep. Yours conquered it. I wish to understand how. Meet me. The aquarium's research laboratory buzzes with activity as teams of scientists from both species work cautiously around each other. Elena observes as Zixara delicately handles a preserved horseshoe crab specimen. The aliens manipulate her appendages, moving with surprising gentleness. This creature has remained virtually unchanged for over 400 million years. Elena explains, bringing up evolutionary timelines on a nearby display. We consider them living fossils, relics of Earth's ancient seas. Zixara's compound eyes shift through spectrums invisible to humans as she examines the specimen. Yet they pose no threat to your kind. On our world, similar evolutionary stability produced the Carvex. Different environmental pressures, different outcomes, Elena suggests. Earth's oceans had many apex predators, sharks, orcas, ancient mosasaurs, creating complex predator-prey relationships rather than a single dominant hunter. A Vraxian biologist across the room calls for Zixara's attention, motioning toward a live tank where a coconut crab explores its enclosure. The massive arthropod, nearly 3 feet across, represents the largest terrestrial invertebrate on Earth. Several Vraxians maintain a respectful distance despite the reinforced glass. They evolved from marine ancestors, Elena explains as they approach. Adapted to land environments while maintaining aspects of their crustacean biology. Zixara makes a clicking sound the translator doesn't process. You permit this creature to live among your populations. They're native to specific islands, mostly harmless to humans, though they're excellent scavengers. Elena doesn't mention the occasional reports of coconut crabs taking small pets or raiding campsites. Some details can wait. Meanwhile, in the facility's secure communications center, Admiral Chen receives troubling updates from orbital monitoring stations. The Vraxian battle group has entered the outer solar system, maintaining position near Neptune. Their official explanation, standard diplomatic escort protocol, contradicts intelligence analyses of typical consortium procedures. Their weapon systems remain in standby configuration, ISAID reports, but their sensor arrays are actively scanning Earth's defensive networks. Chen encrypts a response to Space Command, authorizing increased alert status while emphasizing the need to avoid provocative maneuvers. The last thing we need is to validate their fears about human aggression. Back in the laboratory, a breakthrough occurs when Zixara and Elena compare neural anatomy across species. The Vraxian scientist projects a 3-dimensional model of her species' brain structure, highlighting regions dedicated to threat assessment. 22% of our neural mass processes potential danger signals, she explains. Evolutionary adaptation to the Carvex threat. Constant vigilance became biologically encoded. Elena compares this to human neuroanatomy. We dedicate far less cognitive resource to continuous threat monitoring. Instead, Our brains evolved for pattern recognition, social cooperation, and tool use, adaptations that allowed smaller groups to neutralize larger threats. As they continue their analysis, Elena notices Zixara's growing fascination with human children visiting the public section of the aquarium. The alien observes as young humans press their faces against the glass of touch tanks, giggling as they interact with harmless crustaceans. Your offspring display curiosity rather than caution, Zixara notes. Ours must be trained to overcome instinctual fear responses. Elena considers this revelation carefully. Perhaps that's significant. Human children learn which creatures are dangerous through teaching, not instinct. We begin with openness to all experiences, then learn appropriate boundaries. Something shifts in Zixara's posture, a subtle change Elena's trained eye recognizes as the Vraxian equivalent of an epiphany. Your evolutionary advantage isn't physical, Zixara says quietly. It's psychological. You entered your environment as adaptable generalists rather than specialized responders. Before Elena can explore this insight further, alarms sound throughout the facility. Admiral Chen's voice comes through the emergency system. Security Protocol Alpha. All personnel report to designated safety areas immediately. Elena's communication device displays a message from Chen. Vraxian warship has altered orbit, heading toward Earth atmosphere. Stand by for emergency evacuation. The kitchen fills with savory aromas as the chef guides Kethal through the final preparation steps. The ambassador's earlier reluctance has given way to methodical curiosity, his manipulator limbs working with unexpected dexterity as he applies seasoning to the crab meat. The ritual aspects are fascinating, Kethal observes, watching as the chef demonstrates how to arrange the dish. Your species transforms predator into sustenance, threat into celebration. Elena nods, carefully documenting this unprecedented moment of cultural exchange. Food preparation is one of humanity's oldest technologies. We don't simply eat, we transform raw ingredients through chemistry and cultural knowledge. The small audience of human and Vraxian officials watches in respectful silence as Kethal completes the dish. The finished plate bears unmistakable Vraxian influences, the arrangement resembling ceremonial patterns from their homeworld. A fusion of approaches, Kethal announces, stepping back to examine his creation. As all true diplomatic progress must be. Back on the observation deck, Admiral Chen receives updated intelligence from Orbital Command. The Vraxian vessel that caused earlier alarm has established a stable position, maintaining its distance from Earth. Its purpose remains unclear, but the immediate threat has diminished. They're watching us, Chen murmurs to his aide, testing our reactions. Inside the research station's communications hub, Secretary-General Okafor conducts a tense video conference with the Vraxian High Council. The translator works overtime converting the complex harmonics of the council elder's speech. This culinary demonstration represents a profound misunderstanding of the situation. The elder insists, dorsally mounted appendages quivering with agitation. Ambassador Kethal exceeds his authority by participating in consumption rituals. Okafor maintains her diplomatic composure. With respect, Elder, Ambassador Kethal is building understanding between our species. The biological similarities between our worlds created initial misunderstanding. Through cultural exchange, we develop mutual respect. The Elder's compound eyes shift in patterns that suggests skepticism. Reports from our scientific teams indicate humans evolved without proper fear responses. This represents a potential hazard to established galactic order. Or perhaps, Okafor counters, It represents an opportunity for complementary perspectives. Your caution balanced by our adaptation, your stability enhanced by our innovation. As the diplomatic dance continues in official channels, Elena and Kethel engage in a more meaningful exchange on the station's deck. The sunset paints the ocean horizon in colours reminiscent of both Earth and Vrax. Our historical archives describe humans, Kethel admits, his translator set to confidential mode. Ancient records from our early space observation program. We detected your radio signals, your atmospheric changes, your increasing technological signature. The consortium classified Earth as developing but limited due to your biological constraints. Elena absorbs this revelation with professional calm. You've been watching us. For centuries, Kethel confirms, always from a distance. The consortium's expansion strategies prioritized systems without intelligent life, avoiding potential conflicts. Earth was categorized as low priority for contact. What changed? Kethel's mandibles click softly. Your rapid technological acceleration, from primitive flight to space exploration in less than a century, from basic computing to artificial intelligence in mere decades, the pattern defied our evolutionary models. The consortium decided closer assessment was necessary. Elena processes this information, connecting pieces of the puzzle. So the dinner wasn't just a diplomatic formality. It was an intelligence-gathering operation. A calibrated test, Kethel acknowledges, designed to observe human reactions to various stimuli. We never anticipated being the ones thrown off balance. Their conversation is interrupted when Zixara approaches, carrying a small containment unit. Inside, a juvenile horseshoe crab moves slowly across the substrate. I've been authorized to request something unprecedented, she announces. A living specimen for study on our homeworld. Under strict biosecurity protocols, of course. Kethel's antennae twitch with surprise. The Council approved this. Not the Council, Zixara replies. The Temple of Evolutionary Understanding. Our religious scholars wish to study how a creature so similar to the Carvex evolved without becoming a dominant predator. Elena recognizes the true significance of this request, not merely scientific exchange, but the fundamental reconsideration of Vraxian cultural beliefs about predator-prey relationships. A potential bridge across evolutionary perspectives. I believe that can be arranged, she says, already envisioning the next phase of their unlikely partnership. Provided we receive something of equal cultural significance in return. As broadcast drones circle silently overhead, Kethel samples each dish with methodical precision. His specialized feeding appendages extract minute portions, transferring them to analysis chambers within his exoskeleton before actual consumption begins. The process, part scientific assessment, part religious ritual, fascinates the watching billions. Elena provides context for viewers on both worlds, her commentary translated into the complex harmonic language of the consortium. Ambassador Kethel is demonstrating extraordinary courage by this act. For his species, these creatures represent existential threats rather than nourishment. In the Vraxian viewing chambers across their 17 worlds, debates rage among evolutionary biologists, religious scholars, and military strategists. The implications of Kethel's actions transcend mere diplomacy, challenging fundamental assumptions about predator-prey relationships that have shaped Vraxian society for millennia. The chemical composition is fascinating. Kethel observes after sampling seared scallops. Your cooking methods enhance natural flavors while neutralizing potential toxins, both practical and pleasurable. When they reach the midpoint of the culinary journey, a delicate crab salad. Cathal pauses longer than with previous dishes. The watching audience can sense his internal struggle. On Vrax, he explains to the cameras, creatures resembling this one are venerated in our oldest temples. Cave paintings dating back 10,000 cycles show our ancestors fleeing before their silhouettes. Our first writing systems included specialized symbols warning of their presence in coastal regions. He delicately lifts a small portion with his feeding appendages. Yet here I find myself transforming ancient fear into new understanding. The moment he consumes the crab meat sends visible ripples through the Vraxian observers. Religious leaders watching from their sanctuaries make ritualized gestures, signifying paradigm transformation. Military commanders exchange troubled glances, their strategic calculations suddenly obsolete. After completing the final course, Cathal presents Eleno with the promised Vraxian nutrient extract. The transparent vial contains a luminescent blue liquid that pulses with subtle bioluminescence. This substance comes from the deep trenches of our world's oceans, Cathal explains, harvested at great risk from the territory of the Carvex themselves. Our hunter scientists spend years training for single collection expeditions. Few return successful. Elena accepts the vial with appropriate reverence. The human scientific team has already analyzed its contents and confirmed its safety, though its complex biochemistry remains partially mysterious. To understanding across evolutionary divides, she offers. Thal's translator renders his response with unusual clarity, to respecting different paths to the same stars. They consume their portions simultaneously, cementing the symbolic exchange of ecological perspectives. Later, in the privacy of his quarters, Cathal records his official assessment for the consortium archives. His message bypasses the military command structure, transmitting directly to the scientific and philosophical councils. Humans represent something our evolutionary models failed to anticipate. He begins, mandibles moving with uncharacteristic emotion. Their adaptability stems from their generalist nature rather than specialized responses to specific threats. They encounter predators, similar to the Carvex, and develop tools to neutralize them rather than biological defenses to evade them. He pauses, compound eyes shifting to observe Earth through his viewport. Their history suggests this approach created disadvantages. Their physical vulnerabilities are numerous, but also remarkable advantages. They transform threats into resources. They analyze danger rather than instinctively reacting to it. When facing superior predators, they became superior thinkers. His final observation becomes the most widely quoted passage in subsequent Vraxian philosophical texts. Humans remind us that evolution offers many solutions to survival. Where we developed armor, they developed tools. Where we emphasized caution, they cultivated curiosity. Neither approach is objectively superior, but together they create possibilities neither species could achieve alone. As he completes his transmission, a priority alert sounds throughout Earth's defense network. Admiral Chen receives the warning first. 3 additional Vraxian warships have entered the solar system, their trajectory suggesting military rather than diplomatic intent. The promise of understanding and the threat of conflict race toward Earth on intersecting paths. The research vessel's emergency protocols activate with military precision. Crew members secure sensitive equipment while security personnel establish defensive positions. Elena finds Admiral Chen in the communications center, his expression grim as he coordinates with orbital defense platforms. The drone came from a splinter faction called Terra Prima. He explains, holograms displaying the recovered debris. Human supremacists opposed to any alien presence on Earth. They've claimed responsibility, calling it a reconnaissance mission to protect humanity's interests. Elena processes this with growing horror, and the Vraxians interpreted it as confirmation of their worst assumptions about us, Chen confirms. Their language references predatory surveillance tactics and territorial aggression patterns. They've suspended all diplomatic communications except through military channels. Through the center's windows, Elena can see Vraxian security personnel establishing a perimeter around their scientists. The camaraderie developed over months of research dissolves as ancient evolutionary imperatives reassert themselves. The Vraxians' instinct to form defensive clusters when threatened. "Where's Zixara?" Elena asks, scanning the gathering Vraxians. "Unknown. She wasn't with the main research team when the alert sounded." Elena's concern deepens. The junior scientist had ventured into the facility's marine laboratory earlier, continuing her studies of horseshoe crab neuroanatomy. While Chen coordinates the human response, Elena slips away toward the lab. The corridor lights have shifted to emergency mode, bathing everything in a red glow that distorts colors and shadows. She finds the laboratory door secured but not sealed, a promising sign. Inside, Zixara hunches over a microscope, seemingly oblivious to the crisis unfolding around them. Multiple sample containers surround her workstation, each containing tissue sections from various Earth crustaceans. "Zixara," Elena calls softly, approaching slowly to avoid triggering defensive responses. "We need to evacuate. There's been an incident." The Vraxian scientist's antennae twitch with recognition, but she doesn't look up from her work. "I found something, Dr. Martinez. Something remarkable." Elena glances anxiously toward the door. "Whatever it is, we can discuss it once everyone's safe." "No." Zixara's translator renders the word with unusual force. "This must be documented now, before fear overrides rationality." She adjusts the microscope settings, projecting her findings onto the laboratory's main display. The screen shows comparative neural structures, Vraxian, human, and various Earth crustaceans. "Your horseshoe crabs possess rudimentary fear responses," Zixara explains, manipulator limbs moving in rapid, excited patterns. "But they're generalized rather than specific. They react to threats without categorizing them, without remembering them across generations." Elena struggles to focus on the scientific discovery while alarms continue sounding throughout the facility. "I don't understand the significance." "The Carvex shaped our evolution by being perfect predators," Zixara continues. "They remember, they learn, they pass knowledge through generations. Our fears evolved in response to their intelligence." The realization hits Elena suddenly. Earth's crustaceans never developed that level of intelligence. Precisely. Zixara finally looks up, compound eyes gleaming with scientific excitement despite the crisis. "Your species never faced intelligent hunters, only instinctive ones. You became the first truly intelligent predator in your ecosystem. While we evolved to escape intelligence, you evolved to embody it." Their scientific breakthrough is interrupted as the facility shudders, the unmistakable impact of weapons fire somewhere above them. The delicate glassware on nearby shelves rattles ominously. "We need to go," Elena insists, taking Zixara's manipulator in her hand. "Now." As they move toward the exit, Zixara transfers her findings to a portable data core. "This information must reach both our species. It explains everything. Why humans explore while Vraxians fortify. Why you innovate while we perfect. Why you embrace change while we resist it." They emerge into chaos. Human and Vraxian security forces face off in the main atrium, weapons drawn but not yet fired. Ambassador Cathal stands between them, all 8 limbs raised in a universal gesture of negotiation. "Wait," Elena calls out, still holding Zixara's manipulator. Their joined appendages, human hand and Vraxian claw, create a visual counterpoint to the standoff. "We have a proposal," Zixara announces, her translator broadcasting on all frequencies. One that transcends this misunderstanding. The specially designed containment facility gleams under the alien sunlight of Vrax, its transparent walls offering unobstructed views for the assembled dignitaries. 6 months of preparation have culminated in this moment, the first human to deliberately encounter a living Carvex under controlled conditions. Elaine adjusts her environmental suit, a hybrid of human and Vraxian technologies designed to protect without restricting movement. The atmospheric composition inside the chamber has been calibrated to support both her biology and that of the Carvex. Telemetry is stable. Zixara's voice comes through her comms system. The specimen's biochemical signatures indicate normal baseline activity. From the observation deck, Admiral Chen watches with carefully controlled anxiety. Beside him, Ambassador Cathal maintains ritual stillness, though subtle shifts in his exoskeleton coloration betray his tension. "She doesn't understand what she faces," Cathal says quietly. "No simulation can prepare her for the reality." Ken studies the ambassador's compound eyes. "You still don't understand humans, Ambassador. Knowing the danger and facing it anyway, that's what we do." A hushed ripple passes through the Vraxian observers as massive hydraulic systems activate. The interior wall of the containment facility rises slowly, revealing a secondary chamber containing the juvenile Carvex. Even at 1/3 mature size, the creature dwarfs Elena. Its armoured carapace gleams with iridescent patterns that shift hypnotically, a biological adaptation evolved to mesmerize prey. Rather than retreating as the Vraxians expect, Elena methodically activates her equipment. First, specialized acoustic generators emitting frequencies discovered during months of research, sounds that trigger curiosity rather than hunting responses in Carvex neurophysiology. Then, a carefully formulated biochemical spray that masks her mammalian signatures without attempting to hide her presence. The Carvex extends sensory appendages, testing the environment. Its movements exhibit the eerie intelligence that made it the apex predator of Vrax, patient, calculating, unnervingly deliberate. Approach vectors suggest investigative rather than predatory behavior. Elena narrates for the scientific record. Note the lateral rather than frontal advancement, consistent with territorial assessment rather than hunting patterns. The watching Vraxians remain frozen in collective disbelief. For millennia, their cultural memory has contained only one response to Carvex encounters: retreat or death. The concept of analysis, of treating the predator as a subject rather than a threat, represents a paradigm shift too profound for many to process. Elena maintains precise movements as the creature approaches, neither challenging nor submitting. Her research team spent months studying Earth animal behaviorists who work with predatory species, dolphins, wolves, big cats, adapting their techniques for this unprecedented encounter. Remarkable intelligence in the eye movements, she continues, her scientific detachment, inspiring awe among the Vraxian biologists, suggests pattern recognition capabilities possibly comparable to cetacean cognition on Earth. The Carvex extends a massive pincer toward Elena. The Vraxian observers emit involuntary alarm clicks. They've seen this precise movement before hunting strikes. But instead of retreating, Elena slowly presents a specialized sensor device embedded with chemical signals developed from Carvex communication patterns. The creature pauses, appendages moving in complex patterns that the Vraxian scientists frantically record. Never before has anyone attempted communication rather than evasion. It's not mindless aggression. Elena explains as data streams to researchers on both worlds. It's a complex organism with environmental awareness and decision-making capabilities. Fear prevented understanding. In that moment, something shifts in the collective Vraxian consciousness. Their oldest enemy, the evolutionary pressure that shaped their entire civilization, transforms from mythic monster to biological entity. Complex but comprehensible. Dangerous but not demonic. And the soft-bodied human standing before it, armed with nothing but knowledge and curiosity, becomes something equally transformed in their understanding. Not a reckless predator to be feared, but a different kind of intelligence to be valued.